Kristian, thanks for stopping by to chat. I still remember when you actually came by to my talk back at USF. So I appreciate you for always supporting me over these years. And, I've followed you for quite some time. And to be honest, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all the important, interesting work that you do. Based on what I've seen, I know of you as, a San Francisco-based visual artist, an author, a TEDx speaker, tattoo artist, historian, and entrepreneur, all of which seems to center around your work related to pre-colonial Filipino culture. How would you describe the scope of your work?
I think it's a good description because over the past few years, I've been trying to expand. And when I started this about 10 years ago, I would specifically, stick to the usual like visual art and workshops, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought about in order for a culture to live, you have to be able to pass it on. And while that could be detrimental from a entrepreneurial standpoint, right, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
totally make sense. Usually you want to keep your knowledge, in-house behind a paywall, all of that, but then
Mm-hmm.
it's not good for the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started to do workshops, give it away, et cetera, et cetera. But people started to learn, and I sort of had to figure out how to adapt. And that's where I started to put in more of the personal content, much like yourself, because if when people know the basics, whether it's writing or you're a florist, then you can get that from anywhere, right? And there
Mm-hmm.
are probably much better teachers out there, right? So it's just who you resonate with, what's your personal story, and can you relate to them? So I started to explore those avenues. So I touch a lot of things, but the latest thing that I'm doing is kind of exploring, especially now, it's really applicable. Is like, how do we, sustain a culture in not just in the pandemic, but it's kind of highlighted all the issues, right? Whether it's racism, ultra capitalism, and all the other things that we've been talking about for, people have been talking about this for 100 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing really new. So I would like to describe it as pivoting, as I'm really focusing now on the entrepreneurial aspect of it. But at the end of the day, it's not it. While it is about the money, it's about supporting your family, yourself, and how to do that within this context. And this context is always ever changing.
And what would you say is sort of the inciting incident that had led you on this path towards, wanting to get into pre-colonial Filipino culture and being interested in all these different intersecting passions of yours? Like, was there a particular moment that was sort of eye-opening for you that made you want to walk this path?
Yeah, definitely. So just like any good old Filipino immigrant, you spend your Sundays at your lolas, your grandmothers, and you do all the prayers, and there's a Santo Nino and all of that stuff. And I've always thought it was kind of weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a library of books. And I just started to go through those books and started to read a bit about, the history of the Philippines, et cetera. So I had some idea that there was some culture, but I was really young. I couldn't put two and two together.
Mm-hmm.
I just found it interesting. But really what made me that pivotal moment that I can specifically say was listening to hip hop in the 90s. And that was specifically during the time X-Clan, Public Enemy, KRS-One was, the golden age of conscious hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember there was a line in a song from BDP Worldwide where I learned, he was talking about the Bible, and he was saying like Noah was black and then Jesus was black. And
Mm-hmm.
at that time you were like, holy shit, it was just mind blowing. No one was really, people were talking about it, but not in music.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I listened to that, I said, you know what, let me look this shit up. So I, opened up the Bible, looked through. I said, "Oh yeah, his feet were the color of sand." I looked at the map. Oh yeah, that is in Africa, and people over there are brown. So why is, Jesus with the abs all pale with blue eyes, right? And that's what made me question. And so from learning about, the Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, a lot of Nation of Islam, the hardcore stuff, I really went deep. Like Clarence 13X, I even really deep,
Mhm.
and started to question, then internalize that, like who are those folks for our people. And I saw these patterns of white supremacy all across the world, not just for African Americans, but then also in Asia, India, etc. And that was kind of what got me interested in these other um, cultures, or specifically within the Philippines before the Spanish came, or the Americans, or the Japanese.
Now, as someone who loves watching, a lot of your content and especially your IG stories because you're always really active there, I think one of the aspects of your day to day that I've always admired is how active you are in your respective communities and how connected you are with all of those overlapping interests. So, one day I might see you at an art performance, and another day you're tattooing someone's leg, and how does something as life changing as COVID-19 and the mandatory social isolation impact the work that you do, given that you're so out there and so visible? What are some of the small and big changes that you've had to make?
Yeah, so I've always planned to do online. I've done the little online, but not so serious.
Hmm.
But I have been planning for the past 5 years to open up an online educational platform, starting off with the writing system. That's first for pre-colonial practices in the Philippines, but in the modern context for the diaspora.
Hmm.
So I even went to Facebook and pitched it in front of a bunch of VCs to have
Wow.
this platform for um, cultural practice for diaspora communities. And one dude's all, well, no, that's not gonna make money, and of course, you know, talking shit about it because they're just looking to flip. But
Hmm.
so I've been planning that for 5 years, and I've worked on it, but now I've kind of accelerated that because now there's a need, and I have the privilege of time to do it. So that's kind of like the major, the switch. And then also getting other folks within my community or circle to get online that probably aren't comfortable because whether it's don't like the way they look, or they don't like the way they sound, or they just don't know the technology. Or so I was successful in getting like two of my grumpy old dude friends to finally hop in front of a camera, and now they're like fucking you know VSCO girl or whatever. So and they can't get enough of it, and they know, and it's scalable too.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
and that's the power. And that I learned that from what's his name, Tim Ferriss, from that 4 Hour Work Week. Making systems, and so those are the things. I mean, I am affected because yeah, I've lost all these speaking gigs and things like that, and that's pretty big money. But I've done all these little things over the years, and then it really helps. So I always say, like, do the little things turn in, little action turns into big action. So I have like nest egg, I have the systems in place, so I was kind of prepared for this,
Hmm.
but not really being those doomsday preppers or anything like that. But whether it's finances or your mentality or anything like that, so always kind of prepping. And I think um, that's where some folks are kind of struggling because they haven't prepped or haven't had the privilege to prep. So how do we kind of get that? And that's what I've been working on.
I wanted to go ahead and get into sort of the strategies and things that you've been planning out. But first, I wanted to go talk about another thing that I really admire, which is your focus on mindset and the way that art is a reflection not just of the artist, but the environment that they created the art in. Whether it is the actual literal space that you're in, or whether it is the time and the era that you're creating this in. Given how emotionally and psychologically bizarre this whole quarantine has been, how have you dealt with this on an emotional level?
Yeah, I think I went through all the stages. What are those 7 stages?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
went through it fast.
Uh-huh.
What is it like? What, anger, acceptance, bargaining, and all. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
there's a video of Homer Simpson going through all of those in like
yeah.
5 seconds, and so I was able to adjust pretty fast.
Uh-huh.
And but I think the difficult part is the community around, and it's hard to watch, and hear people struggling, and that definitely affects me. And I have friends and family in the Philippines as well. So it's like, uh, I can, if it sucks here, then, I can go here to the Philippines or whatever, but it's just as bad, if not worse. So
Yeah.
that is a hard part. Emotionally, I think, just trying, I'm still exercising, meditation and all of that. The gym's closed, so still trying to, stay physically active. It's hard though, but, and also I had to call myself out yesterday because I started like, all right, let me try and go back to making music like what I did like 15 years ago. So I downloaded this app that I used to make music on DOS, and there's a Mac version now, and I started on a thing on YouTube to watch. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna start and create this album that I wanted to, a long time ago. And then I had to call myself out and say, hey, shithead, it's not a like productivity contest, right?
Yeah. I saw that. I saw that you had posted that, and like that resonated for me because I'm in this weird dynamic where you're like, okay, where I'm at home, I have the luxury of time where I can go ahead and just like work on all these different projects, but at the same time, you're just, time just seems infinite. It's hard to keep track of the days, and so you really can get lost in this feeling that you need to be constantly producing because you have this opportunity. But at the same time, it's like you also need to give yourself that space to kind of just process everything that's going on since everything is so new. As far as going back to normal and being able to be free to venture out in public, I don't think that we're going to be able to do this until at least like 2021. And I know that some estimates are saying that it could be as far out as like 2022 or later.
Wait, but you're in Texas. You guys are already open.
Yeah. I mean, if
there's
Texas
gonna be a rave tomorrow, I heard.
Yeah, if Texas is opening tomorrow, then I'm not going to be leaving until way later than that. As someone who's quick to adapt and accept these changes, how have you adjusted to this totally new environment? Like, is this a comfortable transition? Like, are you like itching to go out?
I think I'm not itching to go out because no one's out anyway. I literally have not left my apartment since March 12th.
Yeah.
I've only gone downstairs to get the mail. That's it. I have not stepped outside. And not because I'm scared or, I thought about it as some stupid challenge, like juicing for a whole month.
Yeah.
But adjusting, I think because I accepted the reality of it. And I think not just, I look at it also from like, if you're scrolling through Facebook or whatever and Instagram, sometimes you get this ad that pops up and you go, what the fuck, this business, don't you know what the hell's going on? Why are you turn off your ad spend, you're wasting money, or it's not relevant. Right. So I think I look at it from that. It's like accepting the reality and then move, like make a pivot, like make an action plan. All right, so this is the reality. And take whatever, time you need. And I just, needed maybe a week or so just to kind of adjust. And all right, let me hunker down. Let me figure out what I'm going to do for my health, wealth, knowledge of self. So let me try and figure that out. And once I did, and the only way that I know how I could help is through teaching or just talking and putting myself out there from the experience, whether it's like microfinancing, how's my business running, or how am I trying to kind of deal with these things. So I think the adjustment was pretty fast for me. I am kind of itching to go out, just the fresh air and just run around the block because I live in downtown San Francisco. I miss going to the Metreon and all of that. So but I think there's that little in Japan. There are these dudes that just never leave their room. I forget the term of.
Hikikomori or something like that.
Something like that, but I need to watch it again because now I'm kind of like feeling, am I like one of those? Because you're comfortable. I just need a virtual hologram girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're in a plane and you've just been on a flight for like 11 hours and you just feel like I don't care where I go. I just need to run or like stretch my legs, and it's just it sort of feels like that.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the qualities that I also admire about you as creative is your organization and and the structure that you have around your creativity. And I know that you're incredibly detailed when it comes to planning your projects out, both in the short and the long term. And I want to know, about the years of pre-planning that you've done, and which of those ideas that you've invested in previously, which one of those have turned out to be beneficial now?
So I call it like the trifecta of life, right? Whether it's finances, right? You got to get that in order.
Mm-hmm.
Your health, and then your shelter where you live, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the three specifically just for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get those kind of and you don't have to be great, but at a decent, state, then you're able to, then you have the privilege to do other things. So it took me a while because when I came back from the Philippines after going to college there, I was broke, and some company gave me $15,000-$25,000 credit cards. Of course, spending that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So then up to now, it takes a while. So I think one was the finances and kind of getting, dealing with your relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
On a personal level, like why are you buying this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's that part, and then that affects the way you run your business, because then if you're careless personally, then that affects how you run your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those two go hand in hand, and like literally like micro investing. And I can send you guys some links, but using acorns, capital, those things that just put in, that reinvest like the small change.
Mm-hmm.
That adds up. Like after 2-3 years, you can have a few $1,000s in there.
Wow.
And just automating things as well, whether it's your email, whether it's your thought process on how you get ideas, like using Trello.
Mm-hmm.
So I have
Mm-hmm.
a quick way, because everyone has lots of ideas, but then which ones there's two problems in ideas: is people usually don't have an idea, or they have too many.
Mm-hmm.
And for like creative guys, they usually have too many, but then how do you qualify those? And then what are the goals, and whether ideas turn into businesses or something you just want to do that has benefit or cultural, social value.
Yeah, that's one of the things, again, that I really admired about the way that you structure your creativity. Because I have like, Trello and Mindly and
Mm-hmm.
all these apps for note taking and bookmarking things. And, it's like when you're constantly consuming art and consuming media, it's like you're always getting these ideas for, ooh, I want to do this or I want to do that. And so being able to organize those ideas, and like you said, being able to qualify them and to see which ones deserve to go to the next step is also really important. I wanted to go a little bit more into those details, but first let me go ahead and take a quick commercial break.